So let's talk about impact now and how we measure what design thinking can produce. Now, to me, to talk about any new idea in the world of business without talking about how to measure its impact is foolish. Even when measuring that impact is complex and challenging, which we know in the case of design thinking it is, we're managers and managers need measurement. In our research at Darden, we've devoted a lot of effort to trying to track and measure the impact of the different design thinking initiatives we have studied. And I so wish that I had easy answers to share with you coming out of that research. But I don't. The answer's complicated. But this is what we've decided. I like to think in terms of a waterline. Above that waterline are impacts that are easy to count. They're very visible to us and they're easily measured. Things like the increase in the number of meals served at the Good Kitchen, or the number of subscribers to MeU Health's Daily Challenge and how frequently they come back, or even the number of hot leads generated by IBM's new trade show design. These are all impressive, but they represent only the most obvious impacts of design thinking. They're only the tip of the iceberg of the impact that design thinking can have. There are, I believe, far more important impacts for organizational health and effectiveness going on below the surface. But it becomes more challenging as we try to assess what's going on beneath the waterline, because the changes below the waterline are subtle. Any measurement we take of them is perceptual and subjective. Yes, there are still things we can measure, but we really can't count them in the same way. We can measure the increased levels of satisfaction experienced by the Good Kitchen's clients or their employees. We can measure the increased confidence in their ability to create healthier lifestyles for themselves that participants in the MeU Health Daily Challenge may feel. Or we can maybe even get some measurement of the degree of comfort or engagement experienced by the visitors to the IBM booth at Sibos. These kinds of perceptual changes are important because they both reflect and encourage more effective behaviors. But we can go even deeper. As we go deeper below the waterline, we find an even more significant set of changes related directly to behaviors. These are really hard to measure because they're changes in the conversation itself. It's amazing to me to reflect that even in this virtual age, organizations still function largely through conversations. Conversations among employees, between employees and customers, between leaders and their people. They may be occurring increasingly through technology, in teleconferences or email or even on Twitter, but they're still conversations. And changing the conversation is the crucial path to changing behaviors and ultimately outcomes. But we can go even a little bit deeper because some of the most significant conversations we have are with ourselves. And buried deep beneath the waterline, but potentially most significant of all, are the changes not in what people say or what they do, but in how they think and in what they believe. There may even be changes in how people think about themselves as well as others. Like the food service workers at the Good Kitchen who come to think of themselves not as kitchen workers but as chefs. Or the smokers or diabetics who come to see themselves as people who can make better, healthier choices. Or the IBM employees who see themselves as problem solvers now rather than salespeople. These are changes in mindset. And I believe that if you shift people's mindset, you set in motion a series of behavioral changes in the conversations they have and how they see the world, and ultimately in the hard outcomes they produce. How and when do these subtle changes below the surface bubble up into the positive outcomes that we can easily count? I think it's hard to say. How many of those outcomes will never be directly traceable to the use of a design thinking process? Many of them, I suspect. But are they any less significant because of that? No, not if we're asking the right questions. And so we can begin to look for some of the specific changes in mindsets and conversations that design thinking processes are meant to produce. Ask yourself these questions. Are people talking about envisioning new possibilities together, or are they still debating their individual recommendations? Are they listening to understand other people's perspectives and to build on them, or are they still just listening for weakness in their opponent's arguments? Are they gathering deep primary data from the people they wish to serve and mining this for new insights together? Or are they still compiling web-based surveys that reveal only superficial attitudes and opinions? Are they spending time in meetings figuring out how to start small and learn as they go? Or are they spending their time trying to create the perfect plan before anybody is allowed to take any action? Are they talking about designing marketplace experiments? Or are they just arguing about theory in those conference rooms? And most of all, are they actively searching for disconfirming data, or instead just latching on to whatever data point supports their view? All of the behaviors we're talking about here can be observed and monitored, and they can be encouraged, and maybe they can even be managed.